Welcome back. Today in our Sunday Spotlight, bad news bears. We see videos every day of bears wandering the neighborhoods of Connecticut. While they may look cute from afar, they are obviously quite dangerous. 2 weeks ago today, a bear tore through a screen door and climbed through a window, getting inside a Simsbury home. The break-in happened as the homeowner was coming up the driveway in her car. She frantically called her teenage daughter, who was sleeping in a bedroom.
I have two sliding closets, so I just stood there. And then I heard him come down a little bit more, and he was right next to my door. I could hear it right with my left ear, and I was like, okay, this is really bad. At that point, she was already off the phone with me, and I called 911 again and said that there is a bear about to enter my room, and I am in my closet.
Pretty scary stuff. Police arrived and the bear left, but it returned the next day looking for food, and despite efforts to trap it, it has so far eluded capture. Here to talk about why bears are especially active right now is Mason Trumble. He's Deputy Commissioner with the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. Welcome back.
Hey, thanks, Eric. Always a pleasure to be on the show.
So this time of year is important in the world of bears. Tell us why.
It sure is. And if you put yourself in the shoes of that family, right, pretty terrifying situation. So fall is the time of year when bears enter hyperphagia, which is the scientific term for pigging out. They eat a lot of food this time of year in preparation for the winter hibernation or denning season. And so it's a time of year where we like to warn the public to make sure that the type of situations that we just heard about don't happen.
So what can people do? I want to talk about a lot of the stats, but let's just start with like the news you can use. If somebody's watching this saying, well, gee, I don't want my teenage daughter to be sleeping in the bedroom when the bear comes in the house, there's some stuff people can do to make it less likely that they're a target.
There sure is. And we have a whole list of recommendations, but the number one thing that people can do to prevent the type of situation that we just heard about is to not feed bears. And so those type of situations happen when bears get a taste for human-sourced food. And that could be intentional feeding. Certainly, that's something that we don't support. Is actually illegal in Connecticut to intentionally feed a bear. But more often than not, what we see are people unintentionally feeding bears, where it's bird seed, it's trash is a big one, unsecured trash cans, pet food, like a pet dish that you might have on your deck or in your garage. Those types of things are easy targets for bears. And bears have plenty of food in the wild. That's not the problem. I like to say I have a toddler, and no matter how much food she eats during the week, she always says yes to an ice cream cone. And bears are the same way. If you give them a tasty treat with human-sourced food, those have way more calories than what they're going to find in the wild, and they're always going to go for that option. So the number one thing you can do to protect not just yourself, but also your community, your neighborhood, is to make sure that the bears don't get a taste of human-sourced food in the first place.
Now, looking at the statistics, and the DEP has this great State of the Bears report every year that you guys put on the website, and I looked at it this morning. But one of the things that I thought, some people may be watching this and say, Mason, I live in Hartford, or I live in New Britain, and there's no bears coming to my neighborhood, but 159 of the 169 towns had some bear interaction.
Yeah, chances are if you live in a town in Connecticut, there's been a bear reported in that town. Most of the bears are on the west side of the Connecticut River, but certainly there are many bears recorded on the east side as well. So really anywhere you live, you need to practice these tips, but certainly in the western half of the state is where we see most of our human-bear conflicts.
Now, one thing that I thought was interesting looking at that State of the Bears report is Massachusetts has twice as many bears as Connecticut. But yet Connecticut has 5 times as many interactions, whether it's the home entries or interactions with people or sightings. Do we have any idea why, and what do you make of those numbers?
Yeah, sure. So it's a great question. Last year, we had 67 bear home entries. That's a bear going into someone's home, just like we heard about. To me, that's the number one stat we're trying to bring down. So far, we've had 30 this year, so we'll see where we end up by the end of the year. We reached out to our friends, our biologists in Massachusetts, and to put that stat in perspective, they had 4 home entries in Massachusetts last year, despite having 2 to 3 times as many bears in the state as we do here in Connecticut.
And just to be clear, and we're looking at some video that was captured of some bears in Connecticut here, but when you're talking home entry, and it says this in the report, this isn't the porch or rip back a screen. This is actually in the home, because you guys investigate. Somebody says the bear came in my home, and it turns out, no, they just really went up on the deck. This is in someone's house, 67 last year.
Where you live, exactly. So that the garage, the shed, those don't count as a bear actually entering your living space. And like you said, what makes us different from other states? We do a lot of public outreach and education. We have billboards, especially heading into the western part of the state, to remind people to be bear aware. But really, when you look at our other states here in New England and the Northeast, every single other state other than Rhode Island, and I'll explain that in a second, has a bear hunt. Connecticut does not. And so that's really one of the differentiating factors that we see as we look at our neighbors. Rhode Island's unique. They're a small state. They don't actually have very many or any bears that have permanent residence there, so they're kind of an anomaly. But the rest of the Northeast does, and they have a hunt.
Sort of interesting thinking about this, that now we worry about, we have a bear sighting at the West Farms Mall. We have various things like that in populated areas. But historically, it was livestock that was the issue with bears, and farmers saying, they're attacking my livestock. I thought it was interesting. The number one thing is chicken coops. You talked about not giving them a source of food. It turns out the chicken coop is one they're interested in.
Yeah, it turns out bears like chicken just as much as we do. And so if you have a chicken coop, it's actually very easy. You can prevent bears from getting into your chicken coop by using electric fencing. And so it's relatively inexpensive, it's a small investment, and it's very, very effective. So if you have chicken coop or a garden or something, fruit trees that you want to protect from bears, electric fencing is a very effective option to protect your livestock or your chickens or fruit trees from bears.
Only about a minute left, but I want to ask you this. We've talked a lot about how to prevent a bear from coming to your house or eating your garbage or eating your bird seed. What about if you just come across the bear? You're out hiking on a trail, you're taking the dog for a walk. Can you give us any tips? What should people do if they come face to face with one of these things?
Yeah, sure. I say that the scariest bear you're going to see is the bear in your backyard. If you're out in the woods and you see a bear, certainly you can make some noise, make yourself stand up tall, make yourself look big. But that's not a bear I'm scared about. That's a bear that's kind of going about their normal wild behavior. It's the bears in your backyard that you really have to be careful of.
And so if you see a bear in your backyard, you should report it to the authorities?
Report it to DEEP, and again, try to scare it away, use noise, air horns, those types of things, and try to deter it from coming to your backyard.
And if you see one there, you report it to DEEP, and then maybe your statistic will be in the State of the Bears report for 2025 when it comes out next year.
That's right.
All right, a lot to talk about. We appreciate all the good advice. Hopefully people have been taking notes, and we won't add more statistics to that report. Mason, thanks for being with us.
That's the goal. Thank you, Eric.
That is CT25 for this week. CBS Sunday Morning is, of course, coming up next. Have a great rest of your weekend. We'll meet you back here in Studio A next Sunday morning.